Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host, Maxine, and we're on episode 167. Hello. So much to discuss. Okay, so I noticed in the last episode, I started off like these topics, right? I made it plural, and I legit had a plan to talk about multiple things. And I did essentially, but according to the list on the agenda that I had, I only covered one major topic, and that was the B. Simone comments on MLK, which I still stand 10 toes down on. Anyway, we're moving on from that because old news. Let's talk about what exactly is gun control. See how we just made that switch? What is gun? I feel like it's such a common requirement or request that people have, well, we need gun control. What does that mean? What does that look like, right? I want people to be more specific when it comes to gun control. And it's so funny, I feel like the way that I've been talking about guns lately, it seems like I have one of my own, right? It seems like I'm a carrier. It seems like I bear arms. I don't currently, right? Maybe eventually I will. I don't own one myself, and it's just never been a thought, but I understand one's right to carry, right? I understand if one decide to carry guns to protect him or herself and their loved ones. So it's just like, you don't have to be a gun carrier to be someone who supports that right. And I feel like the ones who are in support of guns, bearing arms, then we're now synonymous to being okay with kids being slaughtered in school, when that's just ridiculous to me. It shouldn't have to be this means that. It's totally different things. I could still want the right to bear arms, right? Because there's so many reasons why, right? We are living in America, and I feel like at the very least, if our right to bear arms is taken away from us, then what else is, right? We're already taking away our right to do what we please with our bodies, right? And I'm speaking specifically for the vaccine mandates. And yet there's a confusing story when it comes to abortion rights, right? My body, my choice. Yet that same argument isn't had if I am not interested in getting a vaccine, right? So it's just a weird, contradictory times that we are living in. And I just wonder, why can't we have these separate conversations, right? Why can't you respect me as someone who respects the right to bear arms, and yet still be still be disgusted with the events that took place just recently at Robb Elementary School here in Texas. Now, you know what's so funny? Not funny at all. There's nothing funny about it, right? And we're gonna put on the hat of we believe it all, right? Because I do want to still be sensitive, because I say all the time, two things can still be true, right? You could still have lives lost, and due to someone being just foolish and just a criminal with their right, quote unquote, to bear arms, and taking the lives of so many innocent people. And you can still believe that this is still an agenda-filled event. Hello, does that not make sense to anybody? There's a friend of mine, shout out to her. She hit me up just recently, and she was like, hey girl, I feel like I could only ask you this question without coming off insensitive. And she was like, do you think this is real? And it's sad that we have to ask that question, right? Or some of us do. Other people are so quick to believe anything that the media says, so quick to just believe the hype, etc., etc. But as for me and a few other people who I know personally, we're not quick to believe the hoopla. We're not quick to put on an emotional mask and put our head straight for this cause for gun control. What is gun control? What does that mean? Do you mean taking away our guns completely, because that's a part of control, right? Or do you mean having a strong, secure screening of who gets to have access to purchase guns legally? Now, I feel like at the same time, though, we talk up a good argument as to why guns need to be controlled and there needs to be better policies and laws put in place for gun control and yada yada yada. It's like, well, people still break laws, right? Like, this is still not going to be like a clear cut thing that from here on out it'll be followed and there will be no more mass shootings. There will be no more school shootings. Like, I don't think, unfortunately, there is a guaranteed plan. And there's a lot of memes that I'm seeing about like, oh, only in America you have school shootings. And I don't like, okay, if that's an American problem, well, go to a foreign place. Only in Afghanistan you have gay people being pushed off of cliffs because they're gay. Like, there's a lot of only this area does this thing. One doesn't make it right? Like, it doesn't solidify or make it okay that we're living in a time where this is like a cultural norm, right? You have educators, people in the schools who have to know the protocol and who have to create protocols in times of these events. So like this whole like, oh, only in America, like, shut up. Go live in Haiti right now. Go live in Haiti right now. You get kidnapped because you look American, and because you look American, you'll get snatched. Huh? Only in Haiti do you get fucking kidnapped upon arrival and get held for ransom because you look American and because your Haitian Creole is not as fluent or smooth as the natives there. Therefore, you seem like a target that they could use so they could get a come up. Like, there's always areas in the world where some fucked up shit is happening and it's just a cultural norm. Like, that's literally a normal thing in Haiti. Growing up in Boston with Haitian immigrant parents, I would hear a lot of stories of them telling me how a distant cousin of mine or someone at the church that we went to and that they still go to, but someone at the church, their daughter or that person directly got kidnapped, right? There's this one person who went to the same church as us, and when she was growing up, like probably like in her early teens, she got kidnapped. She got held for ransom. And it was on purpose because whoever held her wanted money. They wanted money from her family, and she was held until they got what they wanted. Now, I don't know what happened to her during her time of captivity. She still is, like, she made it out alive. I don't know how that went through, but they were able to get what they wanted, and they released her. And me hearing this at 8, 9, like, I've heard multiple stories of this. This is like, me hearing it for the first time at that age. When I first heard of a story like that, I'm like, oh my, like, so taken aback, like, oh my God, what? You got held for or this person got held for ransom and yada, yada, yada. And my parents are just like saying it very like, not casual, but very much like, yeah, these things happen in Haiti. Like, you live in a land where it's filled with a lot of poverty and a lot of people who want to eat, who want to eat, feed their families. What do? You hold people up for ransom, right? Like, and I'm not, I laugh at everything, y'all. I laugh at everything, so please forgive me. But that's just what the fuck it is. Like, and it's horrible that we have to normalize it, but it's just already a normal thing. Like, we can't act like America doesn't have like a lot of benefits to living on this land. Like, so despite the school shootings, right? My parents coming from Haiti and having these stories of people who they know personally who got held for ransom or whose children got held for ransom coming into America, like, they still will live here regardless. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, all of these propaganda of why America ain't shit and, you can't feel safe here as a black person. It's like, but, okay, but if you coming from a poverty-stricken country and you emigrated to the States, you made very well of yourself. You bought your house. You bought a house. Maybe you have multiple houses. You have your own business. You have a car. Your children are fed, are clothed. Like, it's a better life than what you had in your native country. Like, regardless of what the media says, shut the fuck up. Like, America is still better. You know what I mean? Like, America is better than where you came from. And if it wasn't, why did you immigrate here? I sound like a Republican, huh? No, but like, I just think, I just hate when people don't have pride. Like, pride of self, pride of who they are, pride of where they came from, right? Or their family or their job in some way, right? There's some areas where, of course, you want to grow and you don't want to be in a toxic area, toxic environment. But ultimately, if you are, if you're always bashing something of yours, then what the fuck should I be proud of you for? Like, I remember I was dating this guy. Not really dating. We was talking. Anyway, he was corny. Church Bay. Remember Church Bay? Him. And, we're both from Boston. I remember one time, what happened? We was talking about, we came across someone else. So it was me and him. We was walking together. Oh, no. Here's the thing. So he came to Houston, to visit me and whatever. And this was like a little while ago. Yeah, like 2 years ago at this point. Oh my gosh, yeah. I was supposed to him 2 years. No, but anyway, so this was like a good 2 years ago. And I remember he finally came to visit me because we were like long distance for a while. And he had friends in an area. Anyway, that's besides the fucking point. Well, let me get to the point. The point is, we were together physically in person, right? And we came across someone else as we were walking somewhere, and I guess we started a conversation, and the person was like, "Oh, where you from?" And we said, "Oh, we're from Boston." And the person never been to Boston. The stranger never been to Boston, and I think it was an older woman, and she was like, "Oh, I would love to visit there. I heard it's very historical and beautiful." And everything that she's saying is true, right? Boston is a historical place. It's filled with a lot of history, very much so. And I'm like, yeah, it really is a historical place. Like, I'm talking about our landmarks. I'm talking about Faneuil Hall. I'm talking about TD Garden. I'm talking about all these like amazing landmarks of Boston because I know it firsthand as a native. And I'm also like enriching your mind on it, this lady's mind on it, because she is showing interest of it. And this guy, Church Bay, talking about, oh, Boston sucks, Boston ain't shit. This is like, huh? Can you have some confidence? Like, what? Boston ain't shit. Oh, Boston. Boston's whack. I'm like, no, it's not, though. Like, it's not. Like, I get it. You want to, like, try something new, right? Move on to different pastures, but you don't have to shit on the pasture that you're in. Right? You could just say, hey, I'm ready for new environments. I'm ready for a new place. But it doesn't mean Boston has a whole, like, it ain't shit. You shouldn't go there. Like, it's not Detroit. No offense to Detroit. But you know what I mean? Like, it's a beautiful city. Boston is a beautiful city. And for him to not have that pride of it, it just shows, it just disgusted me. It just made me cringe. Like, ew. Like, why don't you care about where you came from. Like, why don't you care about your street? Why don't you care about the house that you live? Why don't you fucking care? Can you care? Talking about, Boston, it's just so fucking dumb. Anyway, that shit annoy me. Anyway, the point is, like, have some fucking pride. Have some pride. I'm really tired of people so quick to diminish where they are currently. Right? Even though you want to move, even though you want to try new places, right? I remember when I was in the thinking stages and the strong feeling stages of wanting to move out of Boston and moving here to Houston. Not once was I like, Boston ain't shit. At least I don't remember doing that. But I wasn't really. Like, I just was like, okay, I'm ready to try new things. I'm ready to go to a whole new place. I've been in the tri-state area for all my life. I lived in Connecticut for a couple of years because of undergrad. And I, lived in Boston, of course, and I've been to New York many times, and I just was always in that area, and it was, great, beautiful, New England, all of that, but I want to see something new. Like, I want to go to a whole new place. I want to start anew. I want to create the life for myself. I want to cultivate my own life. I want to be the adult that I want to be, and moving to Houston was that motivation for me to do so, and learning about the city here and Texas as a whole, like, all of that motivated me. But while I'm motivated to go somewhere else, it was never on some, I'm moving here because Boston ain't shit. Okay, like, can we, like, have some fucking pride? Boston ain't shit. So what is gun control? What does it mean? So Beto O'Rourke, who was a Democratic mayoral nominee, was it mayor? No, was it mayor, or was he trying to be? It was a governor. Yeah, he was trying to beat Abbott. So obviously he didn't win, right? So Beto O'Rourke definitely showed his ass just a couple of days ago. Showed his ass. And I don't know if it was a publicity stunt. I don't know if he just got raptured in his emotions and decided to speak up and speak out. I don't even know why he was in attendance, honestly. Like, I just feel like, okay, like, I don't know. Like, when you have certain moments when you're purposely trying to cause an uproar, I wonder how much is it intentional, or was it like an accidental feeling that you just had to speak on. Anyway, let me read this. So, Democrat Beto O'Rourke was escorted out of Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott's press conference on Wednesday after he showed up and heckled the governor in the middle of an update on the elementary school massacre in Uvalde, which is in San Antonio here in Texas. As Abbott was finishing his remarks to reporters, O'Rourke, the Democratic candidate for governor, stood up and began speaking about the need for gun control legislation. Again, what does that mean? Excuse me, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said as O'Rourke ignored him and went on about how the time has come to put a stop to gun violence. Okay, dummy. Like, what do you fucking think? Obviously, it's like, you say these obvious statements for what? To get the next vote when the elections are open again? O'Rourke did not have a microphone, and most of his comments were inaudible. Ted Cruz told him to sit down, but O'Rourke kept speaking. Patrick told O'Rourke, "You're out of line and an embarrassment. You are doing nothing," O'Rourke yelled at Abbott as police officers began to march him out of the room. You need to get his ass out of here. This isn't the place to talk this over, said Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin, calling O'Rourke a sick son of a bitch. What a press conference, huh? So what's interesting about this is you have Beto O'Rourke purposely causing a ruckus, right? In the name of wanting gun control legislation and in the name of putting this all on Governor Abbott as if he's the singular reason. Like, every resident in your town or in your city is a reflection of you. Right? That's weird to me. Like, you have, for example, bad kids, right? Kids who are just bad as fuck. Don't listen, don't have good grades, don't care about shit. On some level, you could blame the parents, right? Especially if they're still young children. And even in their teenage years, I get that. But ultimately, I feel like you have to let people be who they are. Does that make sense? Like, there's no one to blame but the person, him or herself. So doing the easy pointing of fingers of, I'm going to blame Governor Abbott because he decided to continue allowing Texans to hold guns, when we got to read up on that some more. But I feel like ultimately, though, regardless if there were strong legislations put in place for residents of Texas to bear arms, people could still access guns illegally. Like, hello? Like, no matter how much you legalize or make something illegal, you could still find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You could still find a way to get access to what you need. Period. I could hit up somebody right now and get some cocaine. I could. I promise you I could. Like, if I really wanted to, I know a person, okay? And I can make it do what it do. If I wanted to. I don't want to. But the point is, I could still get access. I don't need to wait until the government makes it legal for me to then have access to. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if it's illegal or not. Niggas could still get what they want. And I'm not saying niggas, like, I'm just saying, like, people in general. Like, you could still get what you want. Anyway, Beto O'Rourke did not win his Democratic debate, or he didn't get the nomination, obviously, because we see Governor Abbott in office, but he didn't win because there was a pivotal moment in his Democratic primary debate in 2019 when he said, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47, we're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. Now, he's saying this in Texas, right? Or, wait, was he trying to run for president at that? I think he was at one point. Yeah, I think he was. But regardless, you have plenty of red states who are obviously not in agreement with this. So you have someone telling you, hey, vote for me and this is what will happen. Oh, we're definitely not going to vote for you. We're definitely not going to vote for you, right? And it's not to say you need to bear AR-15s and AK-47, but let me have the right to. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Let me have the right to. Like, regardless of it all, if you wanted to kill someone with a Glock, you could, right? Oh, but an AR-15 and AK-47, you could do it at a speed of light. Yeah. But, like, there's gun violence happening every day. Like, what do we talk about when we say gun control? Like, what does that really mean? It's ultimately, it starts off by saying, hey, we're going to take away your big-time guns that you don't need because you're not in the military. You're not, a police officer or whatever. So you don't need this. And then it's going to trickle down to, we're going to now take your Glock. We're going to take your knives. We're going to take any form of weapons that you may have. And now you are weaponless. There is nothing that you could use to really defend yourself unless you're using like a plant, right? Or a lamp or shit, maybe even a hammer, if that. But the point is, this trickles down to us ultimately being unarmed. Okay? Us ultimately being citizens in a world, in a city, in a state that is now just completely unarmed, where we don't have any access to self-protection, self-preservation, and now everyone is really just out there willy-nilly, and you don't know what could happen that could prevent you from protecting yourself and your loved ones. So like, I know it's so quick to say, well, why do you need, and yeah, sure, why do you need an AR-15? Why do you need an AK-47? That's not the point. The point is, let me have the right to still bear arms and still be disappointed and disgusted with the act of this lone wolf who decided to kill people. Now, with this, there was a lot of argument about that, right? Like, okay, so this happened in a Hispanic area. Therefore, a lot of Hispanic kids are the ones who are victimized. And this is done by a Hispanic man who is definitely like white skin. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of Hispanics here who could definitely pass for white if they wanted to. But his name clearly, I mean, you can't get away with that. Was it Santiago Ramirez? Like some shit. Like that's, I mean, if that's not Hispanic, what is? So you have something like that where he's now looked at as, or it's now looked at as this, the borders, right? Like there should be stronger borders. There should be ways to better our immigration policy so that immigrants won't come over here easily and, terrorize the residents of America. And then so there's this argument that, well, if we're focusing on that, we're missing the picture. Like, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Now, I don't know if he was an immigrant. There was also a picture of him wearing a dress and talking about like being trans and stuff. That has soon been debunked. Apparently that was just like a lie. I don't know if someone just made that up or if that was true, but last thing I heard about it was that it is not true. That was not really him, or someone put that on him, has a Photoshop situation. Regardless of what it is, like, what the events that took place was disturbing, and I just don't like to be emotional. Does that make sense? Like, I don't like to be emotional. I like to keep my emotions in check, especially when it's things coming from the media, from TV. I see a lot of like timelines of people's reactions to it online, and it's just it wears on you until you finally decide, okay, I'm not gonna watch this anymore. I'm not going to like let this penetrate into my soul, because ultimately you're gonna always be sad if you let yourself be emotional over what else is going on in the news. I just don't have the energy for that. I just don't. But considering that all this is true, I do feel sorry for all the lives lost and the surviving family members and friends of the victims here. Let's move forward. Speaking of murder, How to Murder Your Husband. Writer convicted of murdering husband. Now, I came across this story just recently, and this is fascinating for several reasons. Now, there's a lot of like different like crime stories, passionate, what's that called? Like love crimes, or there's a specific name for when you kill your loved one, your lover, because you felt so impassioned for that person. I forgot what it's called, but either way, this is an example of a love crime, hate crime, whatever it is. And there's so many different stories and movies and shows and documentaries of wives killing their husbands or husbands killing their wives. Speaking of that, side note, if you haven't checked out this show on HBO Max called The Staircase, which is an actual event of this father who is, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't finished it or started it yet, but it's fascinating. I think about like, if there's a series of events that's a pattern for example, this husband, I'm just going to say this. This husband, his wife fell down the stairs. That's what he says. And she died from falling down a flight of stairs. Just like, wait, what? But before her, he was married to his first wife, and she died by falling down a flight of stairs. Like, hold on, like, are you a serial killer? Like, what are we talking about? How many stairs do you need to fall down to die from? Like I don't understand if this is really true or not. And the way that the show creates the story is that you could see both arguments, right? You could see, maybe she did fall. Like so there was different moments in the show where she is drinking too much. It's clear that she's unhappy with her life and where she is professionally and personally as well. I think there's like this unhappiness. And so she drinks a little bit too much. She is negligent and definitely clumsy. So the argument was painted that she could have fell down the stairs after drinking her 4th, 5th, 6th glass of wine, and boom, she hit the corner. And the way that the stair is set up, there's like a corner stair, and it's like a hidden staircase, meaning you gotta open the door, go up these stairs. It's like an attic room. Like, what the fuck? What kind of house is this? But anyway, it was an attic room, and she just fell down, and they slowed motioned it, and you could see how she could have potentially, if she really did fell down the stairs, you could see how she could have hit the back of her head so hard that it left her having a concussion, which ultimately led to her dying, right? So she's like bleeding all out, and she's choking from her blood. Where's her husband at this time? If you're going off with this story, right? Because again, this show is painting the different arguments of this, so it's really allowing you to determine your own conclusion, which is pretty cool. But I think he did that shit. I really do. I think he did that shit. For a moment there, I thought maybe she is clumsy. Like, maybe it's just a really horrible freak accident. But nah, I think he did that shit. And there's a lot of reasons why I think so, but I don't want to say too much until it's over. Like, I think there's a few more episodes, and then the show is done. It's a limited series, so it's going to be done in a moment. But, if you guys haven't watched it yet, please take a look at it and let me know what you think, because my God, today. Anyway, we have this story of Nancy Brophy. She is a 71-year-old romance novelist, and she was accused of shooting her husband dead. She said prosecutors had sketched a flawed plot line, basically saying, being that she literally wrote a book about how to murder your husband, and then boom, her husband is now dead from a shooting. It just looks like a perfect match, like a perfect recipe. And she's saying, no, you're creating this narrative based off of my writing. I'm just being artistic. And that saying, art imitates life. Or is it life imitates art, right? You could use it interchangeably. But I think she did that shit, one, because he had a hefty insurance plan, so she got a lot of money from his death. But I think, though, she just needed inspiration. She just needed inspiration to write this novel. Like, look, how can I write a book about how to murder your husband if I don't murder my husband? Like, does that make sense? It doesn't. I need to murder my husband first and then write a tell-all. It's like how OJ did that book, If I Did It. Like, OJ, you did it, though. But I don't know. I was definitely on the side of OJ didn't do it. Yada, yada, yada. Free the black man. But it's looking like he probably did it. But either way, whatever. He got away with it, whatever. But you know how he wrote the book, If I Did It, or Yeah, I think that was the title of it. And he painted out exactly what he would have done had he done the crime, or had he like really done it, right? Because he still claims his innocence, and to each his own. But it's just very fascinating to me how it's very coincidental. You're a romance novelist. You wrote a book about how to murder your husband, and then your husband is now dead. Like what happens now? So what happens? So Nancy Brophy, she's 71. She what happened? Covering her nose and mouth, has a verdict was handed down 7 weeks after the trial began in Portland. So this happened in Portland, Oregon. Prosecutors had built their case with evidence showing that Miss Brophy had acquired gun pieces in the months before the killing of her husband, Daniel Brophy, including one extra component that prosecutors said could ensure that the bullets used in the shooting would not be traced back to her gun. Okay, so it looks like she was doing her research and got the pieces that she needed to get to make sure that after shooting her husband, it wouldn't be traced back to her gun. Now, what do you say to that? Gun control? Like, we need gun control. Like, she didn't have an AK-15, right? She didn't have a AR-50, whatever it's called, AR-47. She had a regular little mini gun in her purse, and she just did what she and the point of what I'm saying is, like, you could kill anyone with anything. So saying gun control, oh well, at least it's not a gun that kills you 15 seconds per minute. Okay, but that Glock still killed someone. So which life matters? Huh? Which one? Prosecutors contended that Ms. Brophy shot her husband in his workplace, where there would be no cameras or witnesses, then moved to collect on lucrative life insurance policies in the days that followed. They said she had a plan in place. She had the opportunity to carry out this murder. She was the only person who had the motive, so it just made sense that she would do that. The second-degree murder charge for which Ms. Brophy was convicted carries a punishment of life in prison. She is scheduled to be sentenced June 13th. So, yes, so she is known for writing several self-published romance novels, and one speculated in 2011 blog post that a wife who kills her spouse must be ruthless and very clever because she is likely to become a prime suspect. She pondered various methods of murder, supposing that knives were too personal, poison was too traceable, and hitmen were too untrustworthy. She wrote that guns were messy and required skill. Very fascinating. You know what I think about that? I think poison really is the way to go. Like, if you're gonna kill someone, I don't know how traceable it could be, right? Like, think about it. Instead of giving you a home cooked meal, or like, putting the poison in please don't take this as like, that's a way to do it. I'm just like thinking out loud. But instead of, how some, like, the shows that I've seen of wives doing this, like poisoning their husband or even sometimes their children, is horrible. But they'll put the poison, what was it? It was like this acid something in the smoothie for their husband to take, or in just their water, some type of drink that the husband the coffee, the tea, typically the coffee. And they'll hand the coffee to their husband very consistently, so much so that it feels like a routine, right? Like, hey, this is a part of our routine. You drink this coffee, and now this coffee's laced, and eventually your body's going to deteriorate, and boom, your heart stops. Now, traceable, I don't know. I feel like it's more speculation. I think it's more so about who do you know is always serving you this coffee. Then that's traceable. But it doesn't really say, like, you don't get fingerprints in the poison that could be traced to the wife who was putting that poison into the coffee. You know what I mean? So I think poison really would be the way to go. Like, look, if you had a choice, I think poison would be the way to go. And there's so many different poisons you can find. I promise you. Anyway. I just watch a lot of different shows. It's fascinating. So I know this. Look, moving forward. So yes, How to Murder Your Husband. This is very ironic. It's very ironic. And this white woman, this dear white woman, she was like a cute little lady, who walks out her front door and gets her mail and waves to her neighbors. Very cute little white lady. But yeah, she's a murderer. Stone cold killer. Stone cold killer. Let's talk more on death. I'm so sorry for the morbidity of this podcast episode, the morbidity of it all, but these topics are just in alignment, I guess, with each other. Anthony Bourdain. I finally came to watch this documentary called Roadrunner, which is about Anthony Bourdain and just how he became to be who he was. Just a story of his instant success, his just respect and love and adoration from the public, and how that trickled down to him not being all the way stable. When I heard of Anthony Bourdain when I was younger, it was because of this show that I used to watch, Staying Up at Night, and it was on UPN. And this was during the time when there was no cable in my home. My dad didn't get cable yet, so we were still watching basic TV. And this would be up at night, like at 3 a.m. And I was still up, and I will watch this show featuring Anthony Bourdain, and he'll just eat the food of different natives and like talk about it and how it's so good and wow, this is rich. This is like, he'll just like give his commentary on the food, and his personality was infectious, and it was just a nice, cool show. And I like looking at food. I like watching food shows. I like watching food videos. I love watching recipe videos. It was just nice. So that's how I knew about him, but I never knew that he had an addictive personality. I never knew he struggled with heroin and was addicted to that for a long period of time until he finally just cut cold turkey, apparently. According to this documentary that I watched, he cut cold turkey, and one of his friends, this Asian guy, was like, he's the first person he knew who cut heroin cold turkey. Like, he just never... He came across a lot of drug dealers, drug abusers. He came across a lot of drug abusers, and he never came across one who really just cut off from heroin. And I guess at that time, I don't know if prior to his suicide, I don't know if he got back to struggling with his heroin addiction. I don't know. They didn't really say that, so I'm assuming not. But what's interesting is he always had a manic personality. Like, he was always obsessed about one thing or another. If he finished obsessing about one thing, it's because he's now moving on to obsessing about another. And it's just a pattern, right? So he was obsessed with cooking and being the owner of a restaurant and making sure his kitchen was in proper organization and all of that. And so that obsession went to there. Then his obsession went towards writing and talking about his experiences in the kitchen. He has a New York Best Times seller book called Kitchen Confidentials, and talked about just all that takes place in the kitchen as a cook, as a chef, as an owner of a restaurant. And his obsession came to focusing on writing. Then his obsession focused on traveling. He did so for work, so it was justifiable. But then it just continued to move on to another thing that he was obsessed with. His first marriage, he was married to this woman or with her for 30 years. They were together since high school. They got married. They never had children. But that marriage finally just dissipated. Like, I don't know really what was the reason. I don't think it was any infidelity or anything abusive or anything like that. He just, from what his peers was saying in their interview in the documentary, he just decided, yeah, I'm done with this. Like, okay, I'm moving on to the next thing. Like, literally, like, he obsesses for one thing at a time. And when he's done with that obsession, he moves on to the next thing to obsess over. So then he and his wife just went their separate ways. They got a divorce. And then, okay, done. So now he takes on jiu-jitsu, which is a form of fighting. I think it's Japanese. And he got so hyper focused on it, got very, very fit for it. And I think he started it in his early 50s and continued it for a couple of years. And to be in your early 50s, starting fighting is dangerous, right? But he was so focused on it. He got very muscular. I think he got an 8-pack, actually, not even a 6-pack, an 8-pack, very well fit. Was fighting, competing in competition. So like sometimes we put ourselves in a box, right? We put ourselves in a box and we think, well, once a cook, I started off as a cook, I guess I'll die as a cook, right? I'm just gonna only be a cook. I don't think about doing anything other than that. I don't think about progressing into new areas of opportunities. No, I'm just gonna stay as a cook. And yet we fail to explore other interests and other desires that we have. So I respect that Anthony Bourdain decided to move in different arenas. Like, who would have thought this cook, who wrote about cooking and his experience with that, one, not only were you a cook, but you then became a writer. So wow, who would have thought a cook is now, a chef and is now a writer? Wow, okay. And then, wow, he travels for a living? That's interesting. Like, he's moving further what the goalpost is, and it's exciting. That's how we should be when it comes to life, right? Like, you shouldn't just stay complacent professionally or whatever that looks like for you. Like, it should be an opportunity to explore what your interests are. If you're interested in jiu-jitsu, painting, playing a guitar, go for it and see where that takes you. So seeing how he was in his early 50s and decided to start jiu-jitsu, that is pretty awesome. Like, I think that's very commendable. I think that's pretty attractive. Honestly, not to say I was attracted to him, but I think that's an attractive trait, to be curious about something and to go for it. Oh, that is the best thing ever. Like, I love people like that. Like, just on any level, whether that's romantically, platonically, professional, like any way. Like, I respect that about someone. Like, have curiosity. That is what this world is about. Like, you're not supposed to just live one way and that's it. No, I'm going to stay in this box. That's it. Like, no, you could change your careers at any point. Like, it's really never too late until it is too late, right? But, which means, like, you passed on. But as long as you're living here on earth, you can do whatever the fuck you want, respectfully, consensually, legally, all that. But the point is, like, you can still explore your interests. You shouldn't have to restrict yourself because, oh, you're now 50 years old. Like, oh my gosh, how would I look starting my singing career? Like, it just, no, start at any point. So I just think that's very commendable. Anyway, so he got super hyper focused to jiu-jitsu, and he was doing competitions, fighting, competing, all of that, very, very well into his 50s and looking damn good doing it, right? Then he met this woman who became his second wife. They had this very just strong, passionate relationship and marriage. They had a child together, and that was his first kid. And it seemed like that was it. Like, wow, he found someone who he felt very passionate for and decided to have a child with, that this is definitely a happy home, right? And they were together for some time. I don't know how long exactly, but a good amount of time. And they had this family, right? They had this family together. But as part of his job, he is traveling often, right? He's going to different areas, experiencing their foods, experiencing the tastes in different cultures, and that weighs on a family. If you're trying to have that stable home appearance, it weighs on it. So him not being home often, and it finally just taking a toll. But I think ultimately it wasn't even about that. It just was about he was over it. Like, he was over even trying to be that cookie cutter home guy, husband, father role. Like, he just wanted to move on to the next thing. Like, he just had this manic personality, y'all. It was just very strange. So you thought he was really happy, and he was. Like, he said he loved his daughter. He loved playing father, not playing, but you know what I mean. Like, he loved being that role and playing it up to this fullest while he was at home for however long, until he moved, or until he traveled to the next place. Yet that wasn't enough for him. Like, it wasn't enough for him to finally just be okay with it and not feel obsessed about moving on to the next thing. Anyway, he moved on to the next thing. Okay, he got a divorce from her, left that wife, left that child too. He was like, I'm done with both of y'all niggas. Like, okay. So he left them and, continued traveling for his job and his own interests. And then he met this other woman, and it kind of went downhill from this point on. But I'm going to say this respectfully, because I think she gets a bad rap. And her name is Asia. It's spelled like Asia, but it's pronounced Asia. And she's this European actress. I really don't know her from any movies or shows, but I guess she's more famous in Europe. And she and Anthony Bourdain start dating each other, and he seems very, very smitten with her. And there's a huge age difference. Don't get me wrong. There's a huge age difference, but nonetheless, there's a strong attraction that they have for each other. They're traveling together. You can see them in this documentary. They recorded together, just took videos of each other, and whatever it is. So there was a point in time in their relationship where it definitely was obvious that he was more into her than she was into him. And it was kind of cringy watching that, as the other people who were around them, they were watching it and they were noticing kind of her being annoyed with him, and him always, someone's just like so into you. They're looking at you all the time. They're just so like fascinated with you. I remember Leprechaun Bay. And y'all know, like, I wasn't attracted to him at all. Only stayed with him for the time because it felt like, I don't know, I was just in a different headspace, and I felt like, I needed to. Like, I just want a boyfriend, just have a boyfriend, and this was a guy who was just around, whatever. But, that's what happened. He was like, for the beginning of our relationship, I remember him always like staring at me. Let me drink this water. Hold on. I remember him always staring at me, y'all. Like staring at me. Like, oh my God. Like, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, and I sound like a fucking bitch, right? Oh, you're mad that someone's calling you beautiful and staring at you and loving how you look. Yes, that's the answer. Yes, I am. That's it. You got it. You're right. Like, that's it. But so, like, I think ultimately though, like, there was just this very much, it was just weird. Like, he was always staring at me. Always fucking staring at me. Like, with a smirk on his face. And I don't know, like, he never been with a bad bitch. Like, what's going on? I'm saying that humbly, of course. But it just felt so annoying. Like, stop. Like, be regular. Like, calm down. Calm down and eat this pussy. Because, damn. Fuck. You're doing too much. Stop looking at me and eat this pussy. So it just got annoying. It got really annoying after a while. There was some times when I would be like, what? I would really just ask him what. He's like, no, I can't look at you. I can't look at my, and he'll do that. He'll be like, I can't look at you. I can't look at my girlfriend. I can't look at my beautiful girlfriend. No, you can't. No, it's annoying and it's weird. I'm a human being. Okay? Like, stop. Like, it's like when you see someone, or like when white people be like, oh, can I touch your hair? It's so pretty. Oh my gosh, is this all yours? Is so the whole thing, the whole fro is yours? And they start touching it. It's like, what the fuck? It's weird. Like, you're poking a human being. Like, what are you doing? That's how I felt when he was staring at me all the time. Like, what? Oh, anyway, so that's what Anthony Bourdain did a lot. He did that a lot to Asia. And you could just tell that she was just not into him the same way he was into her. So, probably a couple weeks later, there are images in the tabloids of her canoodling with another man. Like, they're holding hands, he's picking her up, they're super close, kissing. Like, it was clearly obvious that she was seeing this guy. And Anthony Bourdain, of course, caught wind of it and was obviously upset. I don't know if he ever approached her about it, but as soon as these images were released in the tabloids, I want to say probably a day or two later, it was very shortly thereafter, he tied a belt around his neck and hung himself from the shower in his hotel room in France. Now, boom, mic drop, right? Like, what the fuck? Someone would say, well, he was so upset after, loving this woman as passionately as he did, and finding out that she is seeing someone else, that took a toll on him emotionally, and it led to him killing himself. I think that's unfair. I think it's unfair for several reasons. Why? Because your mental health should have nothing to do with me. And I'm dead ass. And I'm saying this like still, I'm sorry that he passed. I'm sorry that he felt the need to do that. I'm sorry that his daughter is now without her dad. Like, I think suicide is so fucked up, and I get it. Like, I know that sounds super judgmental, because ultimately I don't think those who commit suicide are thinking, oh, how can I fuck up the lives of my loved ones who's going to miss me? Oh, let me go ahead and kill myself. Like, I don't think it's like that. But I still feel like there should be a consideration. That's what I'm saying. Like, there should be a fucking consideration. It's one thing to not care about maybe your parents who will miss you, your siblings who will miss you, your wife, your ex-wife, your baby's mother who will miss you, your colleagues, right? Okay, don't give a fuck about them. Fine, I guess, fine. But I feel like at the very least, give a fuck about your child. Hello? Like, care about your child who's going to know that, damn, my dad killed, like, he put a belt around his neck and hung him. Like, what the fuck? And sure, of course, you're going to feel sad that, dang, he felt so sad that he felt the need to do this. I get that. But honestly, I would feel so cheated. And maybe that's selfish of me, but I feel like if I had a parent or a loved one in that in that closeness, right, of a relationship, and you decide to take your life, I'm going to be specific to like parent and child, because it's different when it's like siblings. Like, I get it, but I feel like if you're the caretaker, right, you're still the parent, whether he's the father or mother of the child. I know the mothers get more respect when it comes to parenting their child, and considering he was traveling a lot, yada yada, I get that. But I think ultimately, though, it's still fucked up. I think it's fucked up. I think you should give a fuck and be like, okay, how can I keep my mental health in check so I could be there for my child? Like, my child needs me, right? Like, a child still needs this daughter, still needs her father. And you decided to kill yourself. And some people were saying that, oh, he was just so upset after seeing his girl, Asia, with another man, that he just decided to do that. So, what? And I think that's fucked up, too. Like, what? You killed yourself because your girl cheated on you? Are you okay? Like, what? And he's not okay, or he wasn't okay, right? I just painted this this image of someone who was addicted, who had an addictive personality, who was very hyper focused on one thing and the other and the next and the next and the next. So he was a manic person. Maybe he has some underlying mental disorder, but I feel like at the very least, give a fuck about your child. Like, damn, how does my action affect her? I don't know. I just think that's really, it's so sad. It really is sad. And I really think about the living family members, the living child who now has to face, oh wow, my dad killed himself because his ex-girl decided to sleep with someone. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about this too narrow-mindedly. I don't know. And I'm saying this with all due respect, but I just feel like if that was really the reason behind it, or it led him to the cliff of doing that, then I think that's really fucked up. I really do. And considering the timing of it all, it looks like he did it because he caught her cheating on him. Like, at the very least, like, is it really that serious? Like, I don't know. I just came from the last episode of this podcast, like, kind of, not to diminish cheating. I'm not diminishing it. I just feel like we need to stop putting our mental health in the hands of someone who's an infidel. Like, I don't think that you shouldn't rely on someone else for your happiness. Does that make sense? Like, you shouldn't rely on, oh, I'm only going to be happy if he doesn't cheat on me. I'm only going to be happy if she doesn't cheat on me. Right? Like, it shouldn't have to be something like that. Like, oh, well, I'm going to kill myself if you leave me. I've heard of stories of people who's been in relationships with people and they wanted to end the relationship, but they couldn't because they felt guilty because their partner was like, if you leave me, I'm going to off myself. And so the partner will stay. Like, okay, well, I don't want you to kill yourself. Let me just go ahead and figure the shit out with you, or let me try to make you happy. And ultimately it didn't work out, and the person never kills themselves, right? And the point of what I'm saying is suicide is fucked up in all levels, right? It's a life loss. But it's also sometimes people use it as leverage. Like, oh, well, I'm going to off myself if you don't stay with me. Like, what the fuck? Like, what does that have to do with the other? Like, why can't you just move on to the next person if I can't make you happy? Why does it have to be, oh, well, I'm going to kill well, then kill yourself then. And that's just me being honest. Like, that's not fair to the other person. You shouldn't put that blame or that pressure or that burden on someone else because your mental health is fucked up. And I think that's easy to say if you're not the one with the fucked up mental health. But look, my mental health is not all the way great. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know. Some people were saying, oh, well, they blame her for his suicide. And, why would she do him like that? And why would she cheat? That's fucked up too. Like, why would you do that? Why would you put that on her? Why would you make her feel guilty for this man's choice to kill him? Like, ultimately, maybe he was obviously very upset after finding out that she cheated on him, but that still doesn't excuse you deciding to kill yourself because of it. Like, stop. No, that's no excuse. That's not good enough. Give me something else. Something else. It's not a good enough reason to me. Like, why are you? I don't know. And R.I.P. R.I.P. I say I'm so fucked up. No, but I don't know. I think suicide, it has a negative connotation, obviously, right? It's a death, but it more so, in my opinion, has a negative connotation because it just feels selfish, dog. Like, it feels like if it's one thing to do it if you don't have any children. I still think it's fucked up, but like, okay, fine. Your body, your choice, right? But you have a child, dog. Like, what about your fucking kid? I don't know. I think it's fucked up. What do y'all think? Let me know what you think. You can always leave me a message by clicking the link in the description notes. Leave me a voice message and I will share that on a future episode. But yeah, I do want to know what you think. You know, what exactly is gun control? What is it? Explain to me what it is. Do you want to take away my AK-15s? Do you want to take my AR-47s? Do you want to take it away? Okay, let's end off with this last topic. Bill Maher, who is a commentator, a political commentator, a comedian. He has a show on HBO, and he likes black women. I don't think he's married to one, but he's had a slew of black girlfriends. So he likes the brown. He likes the brown. So Bill Maher is on the position of being more of, I don't want to say right wing because he calls out both sides, but he's not politically loyal to either side, which I respect, and I like hearing that type of rhetoric. So because of this, he's very polarizing, and also because he's a comedian, he kind of could get away with it because he could, just wrap it up with a joke or, wrap it up with a smirk and a smile and a laugh. So it's okay. Well, he's a comedian. He's a comedian. So recently he said that he feels like children who are transitioning to transgender are doing so because it's trendy. And being trans, right, being a trans girl, a trans boy, is a trendy move that's happening now. And I want to talk about what is it? There's there's a statistic now that in this culture that we're in the time that we're in right now, there are more examples of trans children than there has been several years ago. So I think that's very fascinating. So let's see if I can find that. So the Gallup poll published in February said that each generation had increased by around double from the previous generation. There were 0.8% who identify as LGBT in the silent generation, 2.6% of baby boomers, 4.2% of Gen X, 10.5% of millennials, and 20.8% of Generation Z. Now, wow. That is an alarming increase, an alarming rate. And he hypothesized that some of the massive increase in people identifying as LGBTQ could be because it is currently trendy to be considered as such. And that's absolutely true. I think we don't talk about that enough. There is a correlation there. It is cool to be gay. And gay is not even cool enough anymore. You gotta be, I think I'm non-binary. It's cool to be non-binary. It's cool to be, into one and the other and not identify as any, right? You could be into girls, boys, and not identify as either one, and that's cool. Because that's the time that we're in. It's cool to kind of be unsure about your sexuality. It's cool to flip-flop. It's cool to change your pronouns and be described as multiple pronoun in one, right? I'm a they, I'm a them. It's cool now. So gay is not cool enough. You gay, what the fuck? Ew, you better be trans to be a part of this group. So of course he's getting a lot of backlash for this. This is transphobic and yada yada yada, all the quick shut down labels that we put on people, oh, you're just crazy, you're just a transphobic, you're just homophobic, you're all these things. But it's no, bitch, I'm calling it out. Things have gone too far. There's this meme that I posted recently. Let me see if I can find it on Instagram. I posted it. And it talked about how basically, oh, Ray Liotta passed away. Rest in peace. I liked his work. Okay, well, there's this meme that I posted recently of something that I saw that really resonated with what I feel. So someone once told me that most people start as liberals and become more conservative as they mature and realize that traditional values hold a true purpose. That's the phase our entire nation is going through right now. People are finally seeing that things have gone way too far. This is by someone named Xavier D on Twitter. This is very powerful. I reposted this on my page, and it resonated with me because this is very true. Like, the times that we're in, you see a lot of people just kind of taking it to the extreme. When it comes to the pronouns, that's a fucking extreme, right? If I gotta tell you who I am, right? If it's not obvious to you, then that's extreme in my opinion. If I then gotta justify that, hey, you can't call me that because that's not how I identify, and me saying that doesn't make sense and that's not fair, then I'm being labeled as a homophobe, a transphobe, and all that phobe. Right? Like, if I'm calling out Leah Thomas for it being unfair that she's competing with biologically born women in the swim team, then I'm called a transphobe. And the fact that I have to say biologically born women is also an extreme. Like, why do I even have to say that? Right? So we live in a time where it's gone way too far. And where now some of us are very much realizing, okay, I'm leaning more towards conservative now. This has gone too far, and I'm going back to what I've been kind of raised in. Because I think ultimately, like, in your household, for some households at least, you're raised more traditionally. You get to have these traditional mindsets and values. And then you go to college, and what happens? You go take a women's studies course. You're infiltrated with the propaganda of it all, and my body, my choice, so I should abort my child and kill it whenever I please, even after I give birth. I should have infanticide, because I have the choice to do so. Well, what about the choice of the child? So like we get away with it because it seems to be politically correct, and if you don't follow suit, then you're a phobe of whatever it is. And at this point in our culture, it's gone too far. And I think some of us are finally waking up and realizing this, and we're calling it out. I want to see it more. So I hope my podcast is helping anyone to just kind of question more. Like, just ask a question, ponder about it. Don't just be okay with everything. But anyway, with what Bill Mayer said, I said that before. It's definitely a trend to be a part of the LGBTQ community, especially if you're not even really, right? It's just kind of cool to say, hey, well, you can't call me this because I'm really this. Like, okay. It's just weird. So it is what it is. These are times that we're in, but we have to speak up for it. We have to call it out, and we got to ask the question, what exactly is gun control? I'm fucking No, but anyway, I want to leave this off by saying, please watch Roadrunner. It's not an ad. I mean, it could be an ad. Let's see. But it's fascinating. It's very fascinating how manic personalities bleed into every parts of our lives. And seeing that Anthony Bourdain had a manic personality, it just really explained his death, his form, his method of dying. It really does explain it. And what's interesting is throughout the documentary, while he was alive, he would casually talk about, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if I just like off myself here, or if I just jumped in the pool of water and just don't come up. Like, he would say very much casual suicidal ideations. And of course, when you're hearing that, when you're the recipient of that, it's kind of like like, you're immediately gonna laugh to it because it's kind of like, oh, that's funny, or like, it sounds so crazy that you laugh to it. But maybe it was just his backup call, right? His way of crying out. But yeah, his way of crying out. Anyway, you guys, I'm going to end this podcast episode here. Thank you so much for listening, and I will check in with you guys on Tuesday. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.